Hey there, it's Mira. Welcome to my channel. Today I want to share some of my thoughts on The English Patient by Michael Ondaatje. I actually saw the movie like several years ago, but it is not until recently that I finally got to read Michael Ondaatje's novel. They're quite different in many ways. I personally find the book more compelling. The language is so beautiful and poetic, although I have to say it's not very easy to follow because it's not a straight A to Z kind of story. You're gonna hear from multiple narrators, but as you keep reading, you start piecing together these characters and the stories behind each of them. So the novel unfolds in an abandoned Italian villa towards the end of the Second World War. In an interview, Ondaatje mentioned that when he started writing this book, he had a clear vision of the time and place from the very beginning. So Italy, 1945, that is a period when the retreating Germans left behind a landscape riddled with unexploded bombs. And for Ondaatje, the bomb danger alongside Renaissance art in Italy served as a strange metaphor. So the villa used to be a war hospital, and it is abandoned as the Allied front moved north. Within its walls resides one last casualty who is too severely injured to be moved. And he's a man dubbed the English Patient, but we don't know yet if he is truly English or not because he claims he doesn't remember anything. He doesn't remember his name or identity. And he was burned black in an air crash over a desert at Libya-Egypt border. He is taken care of by Hannah, a Canadian Army nurse who chooses to remain with him when other nurses and patients move to a safer location. And they are later joined by Caravaggio, who is a friend of Hannah's family from Toronto, and he is a professional thief turned military spy, and he uses his thief skills to steal confidential access documents for the Allies. And finally, there's Keep. He is a Sikh bomb disposal expert working for the British Army, and he is charged with defusing bombs and mines in the area. So these four characters all find themselves scarred by the war, either physically or mentally, and the villa becomes their sanctuary, a place where they hope to heal their wounds. And they all sort of center around the English patient who is slowly telling stories of his past and also his doomed love story with a married woman called Catherine Clifton. So as you can see, the novel delves into grand themes of war and peace, but it is equally about the delicate threads to human connections, personal emotions, and how the smallest connection and the complexities of morality can shape the course of individual destinies. Michael Ondaatje is a Sri Lankan-born Canadian. He moved to England when he was 11 and then to Canada when he was 19, where he has lived ever since. And he called himself a mongrel of place, of race, of cultures, of many genres. So I think his personal experience has had a huge impact on his writing. The characters in the novel are from different cultural backgrounds. They all grapple with a sense of displacement and alienation as the war disrupts their connection to their roots. And I think it's also a story about how nationalist views and the rigid boundaries of nationality can inflict deep wounds on individuals, especially during the time of the war. It struck me a lot when the English patient recalled his friends at the Geographical Society who came from Germany, England, Hungary, and Africa. They gathered in the desert and their camaraderie crossed borders. But when the war started, their connections were suddenly and greatly altered. And I think here the desert also bears a lot of symbolic meaning in the novel because according to the English patient, In the desert, it's easy to lose a sense of demarcation, and the desert could not be claimed or owned. It is a piece of cloth carried by winds. Another symbol I found in the novel is Herodotus' The Histories, a book that the English patient carries with him throughout the story. And when I was reading, I kept wondering why Ondaatje put so much emphasis on this particular book. And then I watched some of his interviews, and he said during his research, he encountered an early map maker who used Herodotus as a guidebook during an expedition. And Ondaatje found the idea very interesting that explorers in the 1930s still referenced a historical text from like centuries earlier, and that this text situated in a similar landscape served as a guiding point for explorers generations later. And for me as a reader, I think the way that the English patient transforms his copy of the histories into a commonplace book, glued with his writings, cuts, and pictures, struck me as a powerful metaphor for the interweaving of history with personal destinies. And there's a scene in the novel where Catherine reads the tale of Canales and his queen from the histories. Canales, the king of Lydia, forces his servant Gyges to hide in his bedroom to secretly observe his wife's beauty. But that is discovered by the queen, and the queen gives Gyges a choice: either kill Canales and take his place, or face death himself. So Gyges chooses to murder the king, and a new age begins. Hearing Catherine reading this story, the English patient realizes that while he opens Herodotus for a clue to geography, Catherine uses it as a window to her life. So, I mean, history isn't just about grand narratives. History is about the genuine emotions of each individual within its pages. And now I like to read a few quotes from this novel. The language is so beautiful and I love it so much. There are so many compelling passages that I want to share with you, but I'll select a few due to time constraints. Okay, here it goes. He whispers again, dragging the listening heart of the young nurse beside him to whatever his mind is, into that well of memory he kept plunging into during those months before he died. There were rivers of desert tribes, the most beautiful humans I've met in my life. We were German, English, Hungarian, African, all of us insignificant to them. Gradually, we became nationless. I came to hate nations. We're deformed by nation-states. Maddox died because of nations. The desert could not be claimed or owned. It is a piece of cloth carried by winds, never held down by stones. And given 100 shifting names long before Canterbury existed, long before the battles and treaties quilted Europe and the East. Its caravans, those strange rambling feasts and cultures, left nothing behind, not a number. All of us, even those with European homes and children in the distance, wish to remove the clothing of our countries. It is a place of faith. We disappeared into landscape, fire and sand. We left the harbors of oases, the places water came to and touched. From this point on, she whispered, we will either find or lose our souls. Seas move away, why not lovers? The harbors of Ephesus, the rivers of Heraclitus disappear and are replaced by estuaries of silt. The wife of Canales becomes the wife of Gyges. Libraries burn. What had our relationship been? A betrayal of those around us? Or the desire of another life? She climbed back into her house beside her husband, and I retired to the zinc bars. I'll be looking at the moon, but I'll be seeing you. That old Herodotus classic, humming and singing that song again and again, beating the lines thinner to bend them into one's own life. And this one, I think this will be the final one. We die containing a richness of lovers and tribes, tastes we have swallowed, bodies we have plunged into and swum up as of rivers of wisdom, characters we have climbed into as of trees, fears we have hidden in as of caves. I wish for all this to be marked on my body when I am dead. I believe in such cartography, to be marked by nature, not just to label ourselves on a map like the names of rich men and women on buildings. We are communal histories, communal books. We are not owned or monogamous in our tastes or experience. All I desire was to walk upon such an earth that has no maps. I carried Catherine Clifton into the desert, where there is communal book of moonlight. We were among the rumor of wells in the palace of winds. Okay, so what do you think? I think the book is pretty relevant today, particularly if we look at the geopolitical environment with countries looking inward on this deglobalization trend and nationalistic sentiment rising in almost every part of the world. Not to mention we've got two major wars happening, one in Gaza, another in Ukraine. But hey, what about our shared humanity that doesn't have anything to do with color or creed or nationality? So that's all I got for this book. If you like this video, please hit that like button and subscribe for more book discussions. And if there's another book you'd like me to talk about, please let me know. I'll see you soon.